yesterday we started talking about maximum and minimums, right? And identifying different intervals and where things were increasing, decreasing, and constant. What we said maximum was? Let's start there. What we said maximum was? The point where you go from increasing to decreasing. We said a minimum where you go from decreasing to increasing, right? Then we also talked about intervals on which things were increasing, decreasing, and constant, right? When we looked at a graph, we were just looking at the slope. You remember that? So we're going to pick up back on that today. We're going to start with this. I want to evaluate this function. F of x is equal to a negative x to the fifth minus 2x cubed plus 3x minus 1. I want to evaluate these two numbers, negative 1 and 3. How do I evaluate again? What do I do? Plug in negative 1, right? We plug in negative 1 by hand. We're going to get, what's negative 1 to the fifth? Times the negative makes it a positive 1, right? So we get positive 1. Then we get plug in negative 1 to the third, which is times the negative 2 makes it a positive 2. Plug in negative 1 here, you're going to get a negative 3, right? Minus 1. So that's 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 minus 3 is... And so that's left with a, what, the negative 1 here. So negative 1 was fairly simple to plug in, right? Plug in 3, what do you get there? What's 3 to the fifth? Well, 3 to the fifth is going to be... Yeah, so it'll be, it's actually 3 to the fifth is 243, but you have a negative sitting in front, so that becomes negative 243. 3 to the third is negative 27 times the negative 2. 3 to the third is a positive 27 times the negative 2 is a negative 54. Plus 3 times 3 is 9 minus 1. And that equals 2. Negative 289. Yeah, negative 289. A little more work, but we can do it though, right? Let's simplify this even further. Today we're going to talk about evaluating with the calculator first, all right? So we're going to use the calculator to evaluate. Now, your calculator has a nice feature, it's the table feature. And on your calculator, your table sits right here. Here's your table buttons. Everybody see it? So let's start off with the table button. Press the table button, please. And it brings you up to the familiar y equals format that you have in your graphing calculators. Let's distinguish the difference between a negative and a minus sign first, all right? Let's talk about the difference between a negative and a minus sign. In this equation, you have negative x to the fifth minus 2x cubed plus 3x minus 1. This first sign, is it a negative or a minus? Negative. You need to press this key down here. If you don't, it's going to mess up your calculations. So press negative. Your x key sits right here. Here's the x key, right by the 4. So that's negative x. To raise it to a power, use the caret key, which is right here. So that's negative x to the fifth. And now to bring it back down, because if you don't bring it back down, here's what you have. So for negative x to the fifth, you need to bring it back down. So to bring it back down, you're going to press the side cursor. And now you have a minus. The minus key is the subtraction key, which is here. You need to press that one. If you press the negative key, you're going to get a different answer. It's going to mess things up. Keep that in mind. So 2x cubed plus 3x minus 1. So type the equation in, please. When you have it typed in, press enter. It'll bring you to the screen that says start equals 0. Leave the start at 0. The step is equal to 1. Leave the step at 1. Then you have this auto and ask. You want to go to ask x. What this means is it's going to allow you to ask the equation about any x value. So make sure this is highlighted, this ask x, and go to OK. And it brings up this table now. So in this table, all you're going to do is ask about those two x values. So you're going to ask about negative 1. So type in negative 1 and press enter. And it gives you the y value is what? Are you typing in negative 1? Type in negative 1. And then press enter. Get it? Really? You have it set to ask? I got it? Alright. Type in -1. You should get back -1. Type in +3, and you should get back 289. -289. So what that means is this. Now, when you evaluate functions at a particular number, you can use your calculator to do it. Today, you're going to use your calculator a lot to evaluate these functions, all right? So, we're going to talk about the average rate of change. What else do we call the average rate of change? What else do we call the average rate of change? Slope. Thank you so much. Average rate of change is just the slope. How do you find the slope again? Thank you. So m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, right? And yesterday when we talked, we said we're going to do this now. We're going to take 2 points, which is x1, y1, x2, y2. But we're going to call the first point point A, and let it have an x coordinate of A and a y coordinate of f of A. And then we're going to take a second point and call it B, and let it have an x coordinate of B and a y coordinate of f of B. When I look at these 2 points right here, looking at those 2 points A and B, what is the slope between those 2 points? How do you calculate that slope? Do we have 2 points? Yes. So we do what? We say it was y2, which is f of B, minus y1, which is f of A, over x2, which is B, minus x1, which is A. So this is another way to write the slope. That's how we're going to find the average rate of change. And in particular, I'm interested in this now. The average rate of change is a slope value. What did we do with slope yesterday? What did we do with the slope yesterday? You were able to tell me the intervals that it was what? Increasing, decreasing, and constant on, right? In an increasing function, what was the slope like on an increasing function? If the function was increasing, what was the slope like? Was it positive, negative, or was it positive, negative, or zero? Thank you, it was positive. Well, what does it mean to be positive? Here's what's going to happen now. You're going to evaluate these functions, and you're looking at their y values. Look here at this y value. Is this line positive right here? Are we positive right here? Yes, right? Look at the first point. Look at the y value at point A, which is the first point, right? Let's compare it to the y value at point B. What do you notice about it? Is A above or below B? It's below B. So here's what we're saying. If f of A is below, how do you say below in terms of math? Less than. If f of A is less than f of B, and a function is increasing, which means this: if your y value starts down and you rise up to a higher y value, your function should have a positive slope, right? Think about that. You're starting down and you're going up. Everybody understand that? Now, a function is decreasing. Well, let's look at decreasing. Again, here's A, and the point is A, f of A. And here's B, and the point is B, f of B. Is the slope negative? Is the slope negative between these 2 points? We said decreasing yesterday was negative slope. What does that mean in terms of the y values then? So with respect to f of A, if f of A starts up and you have negative slope, f of B has to be where? Below it. F of A is up, right? Then f of B has to be below it. So, but really that means that f of A is above f of B. So how do you say above? Greater than. Which says this now: if I start up high and I have to come down, what's the slope going to be? Negative. If I start high and come down, it's going to be negative, right? Then we have constant slope, or we have a constant function. On a constant interval, the slope was 0, and it looks like this. here's A again, at A, f of A. Here's B, at B, f of B. Well, this time, what's true about the y values of A and B? They're equal to each other. So if f of A is equal to f of B, you're going to get constant slope. So today, all you're really doing is finding slope. You understand that? Alright, so here's an example of what you're going to do. I want to classify the interval. I'm going to classify the interval by finding the slope. F of x is equal to x to the 4 plus 2x squared minus 5. And I want you to evaluate, I want to look at the interval from -4 to -2. So what I'm asking you is this: on the interval from -4 to -2 for this particular function, what is the slope like? What is the slope like? Do you understand that? So here's what we're going to do. If you evaluate the endpoints, they're going to tell you what's happening in between that interval. So we'll evaluate the function at f of -4 and at f of -2. Do we not evaluate a function at these particular two values? Can we do that? How do we do that? With the table feature of your calculator. So let's do that in your calculators, please. So in your table, you're going to type this function in again. Make sure your calculator is set to the AskX values. Press OK. You're looking at -4. What do you get at -4? Thank you. So at -4, I get 283. And at -2, what do you get? 19. So what we're going to do now is compare those y values, all right? I want to compare the y values. This is the first point, point A. This is the second point, point B, right? 283. Is that greater than, less than, or equal to 19? It's greater than 19. Since it's greater than 19, what does that mean? That means it's decreasing. And think about it. It should make sense. If you're at 283 and you come all the way down to 19, what is your function doing? It's decreasing on that interval. So this is decreasing. Now I want to verify through the slope. So can I find the slope between these two values? Well, this is just a point, right? This is the point -4, 283. And this is the second point, -2, 19. How do you find the slope between two values? y2 minus y1. So I have 19 minus 283 over -2 minus a -4. -19 minus 283 is equal to? So it's -264 divided by, you have a -2, minus a minus makes this a positive. So it's -2 plus 4 is 2. And that means that's equal to a -132. Which, is the slope negative? Yes. Are we decreasing on the interval? So that verifies that we're actually decreasing on the interval, right? So y'all give this one a shot. f of x is equal to negative 3x cubed minus 4x. I want to know what's happening from 2 to 6 on this interval. So on the interval 2 to 6, what's happening to the function? No. It's the same thing from yesterday. Because you're evaluating the endpoints, you don't really care about what you don't really care, because you're evaluating on the inside of the endpoints, you don't care if you're excluding or including. So at f of 2, what y'all get for f of 2? Yeah, negative 32. And at f of 6, what'd you get? Negative 672. Right? So when we compare negative 32 to negative 672, is it greater than, less than, or equal to? Is negative 32 greater than, less than, or equal to it? It's greater than negative 672. So again, that means you're starting at negative 32 and working your way all the way down to negative 672. So what are you doing on that interval? You have to decrease again. And again, verify through the slope. Well, you have the point 2, negative 32, and the point 6, negative 672. So the slope is just negative 672 minus a negative 32 makes that plus a 32 over 6 minus 2. Negative 672 plus 32, what'd y'all get for that? What'd y'all get? Negative 640. So that's negative 640 over 6 minus 2 is 4. Negative 640 divided by 4 is negative 160. And because you have a negative slope, that also means you're doing what? Decreasing on the interval. So, today,